All right, we're live. There was a person. This is second time going live. I checked my mic. There was a technical difficulty, which I seem to have remedied, or with the assistance of, my, with the help of my beautiful assistant, we got it working. So there was a person that was briefly on. I have a lot of brief visitors. People come on and they're like, "Oh no, I forgot. I don't know how to unsubscribe." There's so many people out there who don't know. It's just funny, like on Facebook. On Facebook, there are like tons of people that come on there and they're like, "How do I get out of this? How do I get out of this group? How do I unsubscribe from this group?" Like they have no idea how to get out of the. It's so funny. It reminds me of when I used to do elections and I would go to people's homes and like invariably people work that they're registered to vote, but they work, which means uh, I can't get them at 6 in the morning when they're getting ready for work, when they're brushing their teeth. Hey, can you tell me, how do you plan on voting? I need to introduce to you the candidates' ideas because they're getting ready to work, which means that by the time I get to see them, they're already at home and they're getting dinner ready. But it's not my fault that that's how capitalism works. And it's not my fault that they're registered to vote, right? So they get mad at me when I show up around dinner time to ask them questions, but that's not my fault. You know what I mean? Like, you signed up for this. So, ergo, you're going to get punished. And that's just how things are. You sign up for a political group. That's because you want to have a discussion about politics, right? It's kind of surprising how people sign up for these things. They're on Twitter, they're in Facebook groups, and they're like, I don't want to discuss this. But what do you want to talk about then? And then they just kind of like, like today, somebody was just purely insulting me after I had made a comment on a thread on Twitter, and they attacked me, and I was giving reasonable responses given her attitude, and she's like, insulting me the whole way. How can you be this way? I'm tired of your opinions. You're tired of my opinions? Lady, you came to me. What the heck? You know what I mean? Or am I unreasonable?
I have no idea what that conversation was about. So,
Well, it's not about the subject. It's like if I say something, maybe you don't agree with me, fine. But you would never accost someone, even somebody you disagree with. You wouldn't go to somebody, let's say somebody who's anti-choice, and then you would insist that they should leave you alone. That's pretty much how it is. Like I say something, and because I'm daring to voice my opinion, just by voicing my opinion, I'm interfering with their life.
I mean, I've seen you go onto threads and say stuff to people. Like, that's what Twitter is.
Yes, but I don't go get out of my life. It's their choice.
Yeah.
So you can tell she's not really she's not always on my side. So don't get this wrong. That's not how this works. She's not like what was his name? Combs. It's like Hannity and Combs. It's not like Hannity and Combs. Yeah. Bye. I may edit this later. Right now, there's no one. There's nobody. So there was one person, like I mentioned before, on the other stream, but now there's nobody. So I may edit this. I have the option of editing this. I don't know until the highlight. I think the highlight will be her disagreeing with me. That's probably going to be the highlight. Because that's how it is. I don't know if I should say anything until somebody comes on. So right now, there's nobody. And I want to see how this works. I'm going to go very quickly to Facebook. No. That didn't work. All right. Nobody's here, so that I can have dead air. What I need to do is have some way of playing the talking heads when I'm talking. Because nobody cares. Where is this? Where's this? I'm going to open up this browser. Make an announcement on Facebook. Why is it giving me restore pages? No. Microsoft sucks so badly. Live on YouTube. And then what I'm going to do is put an apostrophe there because I know that everyone's an English teacher now. And then get this going. I think this is the live stream. Well, you're going to look at it. Just tell me if it's accurate, okay? So I'm going to post it right now, and you're going to tell me if you can follow it on your phone. Just give me 5 seconds. Boing.
Close the water heater one.
Water heater one?
Yeah, you can see the water heater.
Oh. All right. No one's here. No one's here. Nobody knows that we're not living on a spaceship.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, that was the other one. Yeah, that was the other one. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
I'm live?
Mm-hmm.
I'm live? All right.
I'm going to close that out because otherwise you're just going to get feedback.
Oh, that's fine. There is a bit of delay. So if anybody has a Facebook account, they'll be able to chat with me because I'll be able to see it, although I don't know what the delay will be like. There'll be a slight delay. But like I said, if anybody is, that could be you. I see you. I don't know. This sees one person watching. So whatever the delay is, so it's not exactly live, but it's pretty close.
I'm not watching anymore. Close it out.
Okay. So, and that was you.
Okay.
Of course, my problem is whenever I go live, I should probably go live from a party. That's what people are going to look at. So, yeah, nobody's here.
Well, it's Easter, honey.
It's Easter. It's Easter. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk, and then I'll just edit it later. I think. Where are we on the stream? Want to have a short conversation for 5 minutes?
Sure.
All right. So I saw at the market, I wasn't aware, but you were aware.
Mm-hmm.
My partner was aware that there were people ahead of us, and I was aware that it was taking a long time, but I just thought it might have been the machine, the register, so I wasn't sure what it was, and we were just sitting there for a long time. I think we were sitting there for it felt like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it probably wasn't.
Probably closer to between 10 to 15 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. And which is kind of a long time. We were just sitting there doing nothing. And I had my phone, so it was okay. But the thing of it is that later on you ended up telling me that the reason there was a problem at the register was because they had gone a pittance a little bit above their EBT. Mm-hmm. And because of that, everything had to shut down because they had to figure out a way to reverse it, taking stuff off. And it's a little crazy. It's a little, and then you ended up reading something else about what happened the day before when we were at an Easter party, Easter celebration with your nephew's wife about how she had been kicked off Apple. And the reality is there's a lot of financial tyranny going on. People have trouble meeting ends meet. And the liberals and the conservatives have this discussion over EBT like it's an aberration. But it's not an aberration. It's capitalism. We're so brainwashed into thinking that food stamps are the opposite of capitalism, but they actually are not. It's a subsidy on corporate America. They can continue to pay low wages and we can continue to have a crappy system, and they're going to put a Band-Aid over it called EBT. That's what it is, because a lot of people can't afford it. And then on top of that, prices are going up and the benefits are not going up. So it's a little wonder that people often are, I don't know, do you remember how far short they were?
I believe it was about $7.
$7.
It was about $7, and they took off like a $4 box of Cheez-Its, and I don't know, something else for like
so it was around
$3. And then I don't know what happened that put them in the negative. I don't know how it all worked, but that put them in the negative. And then they had to get a manager out to handle it, and they had to move.
Which is humiliating for them.
Yeah, that was and I mean, I was just trying to be obviously patient, and you know what I mean. Like I didn't want to make it. I don't want to be sighing or, openly expressing how annoying it was, because it wasn't their fault.
But a lot of people would be.
Yeah.
But my point is, that's going to happen more and more because we're living in California and the prices are out of control. They're out of control everywhere, but they're really out of control here. I'm not blaming. This is not a partisan argument. I don't know who is listening to or watching me right now for the first time. I'm not making an argument criticizing Democrats because they're liberal. I'm just saying that's how it is here. It's really expensive. Things are out of control, and not all of it is due to whatever inflation is supposed to be. Sometimes people just jack up the price because they can. And then on top of that, EBT is really something that has to happen, because if you don't have these little controls like the welfare state, then your capitalism doesn't run smoothly. That's the whole point of these things.
I mean, it doesn't really run smoothly anyway. But
no, it doesn't run smoothly, but it runs a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
As far as the liberals are concerned, it runs smoother or smoothly as far as they're concerned this way, right? I mean, listen, let's say you're Walmart, right? Walmart, you need government policy to keep the dollar strong so you can buy shit in China. So that's government policy right there. That's not capitalism. And then, even though you pay a high hourly wage, so you look good on paper, you cut people's hours, so you pay them as little as you can. And that's why a lot of the people who work for Walmart are on government assistance, right? So they don't turn around and go, what the hell's going on? I demand bigger or better pay. And you don't have trouble attracting that many people because they can go on public assistance. That's what I mean. It's a subsidy for them.
Yeah.
And then these people who were in line with us, that money was going to the corporate sector.
Yeah.
So it's going to finance supermarket and the space that they rent out to these products.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So from your perception is not incorrect. It doesn't run smoothly. But from a perception of somebody who lives in Silicon Valley, or somebody who lives in Martha's Vineyard or whatever, it's better this way.
Yeah. That's
what it is. And and then on top of that, they're not giving them what they need. I mean, they're not giving. And can you imagine? There are people who live in Los Angeles County, and they're getting $90 for the month.
Yeah.
For food.
Yeah.
Which, of course, these days, if you go to the supermarket, that's what, one visit?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then when you mentioned that's a form of financial tyranny. But the other one is, what happens if you get a check and you got to go to Bank of America and you don't have an account with Bank of America? What do?
They charge you. They take a fee. They'll. I mean, it used to be if you received a check that was drawn on a Bank of America account, if you didn't have an account at Bank of America, you would go in and they would cash the check for you because it was drawn on their bank. But now they don't do that anymore. Now they charge a fee. We'll cash the check, but because you don't have an account here, we're going to take $3 out of it. Or I don't even know what the fee is anymore because it's been a long time since I've had to do that. I actually, where I work, we get a petty cash check every month that covers things like postage or whatever, snacks for the staff or whatever. It's just a list. We get like $200 a month, and that petty cash check is drawn on. It was drawn on, let's say, I don't know. Let's say it was drawn on Bank of America or whatever, and I don't have an account there. So when I would go to cash the check, I had to argue with them every single time because they wanted to charge me because I don't have an account. And I would have to tell them, this is a petty cash check. I am not cashing this check on my behalf. I am cashing this check. This is basically coming out of my account. I am a representative of this company. And I mean, you don't know how many times they've had to go get a manager to approve it or whatever, because they wanted to charge me to cash a business check for business purposes on the account that the business account was drawn on. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous.
And it's worse when you realize how banks work. The money that they have is not the depositor money. I mean, they have the depositor money, and then they have money that they're making out of thin air, which they then lend out and they collect interest on.
Yeah.
So they literally make money. Banks make money, which I don't really want to get into that here because this is not about fractional reserve lending, but there's other things going on right now which we don't even know about, like non-banks. Like, in other words, some of these pension funds actually are lending out money, and then that's failing. Nobody knows anything about that right now. But my point is, they're making money, which should be a government thing. They're literally, and I don't mean making money like a profit. They like create money. They just deposit it into people's accounts. And then the way they treat people coming into cash checks is just like you or like me. When I had to cash, I was paid on a few campaigns. I was really destitute. And my old boss, Paul, would pay me with a check. And I'd have to pay money from that to get my, so I was taxed. That's a private tax. These conservatives are always talking about taxes, but they don't have a single word to say about that.
Yeah.
So, and also you have the situation we were talking about earlier with your niece who got kicked off of her Apple Pay because she didn't have a social security number. So some people don't have social security number. Now, if you're in this country and you're indigent, you're poor, that's already a problem because maybe you're homeless. That means you don't have an address. So it's going to be harder to get a bank account.
Right.
And then if you're undocumented, you don't have a social security number, that's going to be a problem because if you try to get on Apple Pay or you're related in some way to somebody who doesn't have a social security number, you may be kicked off of Cash App. So, and the banks, by the way, they enforce social conservatism online. So if you're running an erotic website, like an erotic social media like FetLife, or you're running free porn, and you're dependent on banks, obviously, because that's how money transfers are. Could be PayPal, it could be whatever. They might cut you off. They might cut you off if you have erotic stories they don't like.
And didn't they do that for marijuana too?
They were trying to.
Because I don't think that dispensaries had access to banks for a long time. I don't know if that's been resolved now, but they were cash only because banks wouldn't work with
because
them.
Of the feds. I don't know if that's been resolved. I would appreciate if anybody could tell me if that's been resolved. But that's a form of financial tyranny. I mean, everyone on the left is talking about what they were doing to Venezuela. because the banks cut them off, and that made it difficult for them to make transactions. That's one of the things that was going on in Venezuela. It wasn't so. Yes, they have justice issues, they have government bureaucratic issues, they have some corruption, but you couldn't go and make a credit purchase at a supermarket there. You know what I mean? You can't refer to something that the banks are doing and make it look like it's their fault. But anyway, that's stuff that they do. What we need in this country desperately is to take the United States Postal Service, strengthen the Postal Service by getting rid of that ridiculous pension requirement, and then turn them into, not just fully fund them, because right now they're not running on federal funds. They run on the fees they collect from selling stamps, junk mail, and some profits they get from Amazon. What we need to do is strengthen the United States Postal Service and turn it also into a dual mission. So they should be not just a postal service, they should also be a bank. So if you're homeless, you don't need an address, you just need a post office box, you can get it with them. You don't need a social security number, and you can get a bank account, and you can get funds, and you can make transactions online, and you can get a card, and your EBT could be deposited there if necessary. I am for taking off the financial tyranny and just saying, let's let it all hang, because there's just too many rules, and it's just too difficult for people to, and we're not even talking, I know people are always like, well, first of all, you have all these people who are jackasses who think that's just all going to be solved by, what is it, Bitcoin?
Mhm.
That's all nonsense. That's a scam, clearly. So you need to disabuse yourself of that notion. But the other thing is that there are people out there who are worried about human beings going around purchasing drugs or whatever. But the reality is,
I feel like I hear what you're saying, but I also feel like, okay, the whole thing about the Social Security, about my niece who can't use Apple Pay because she doesn't have a Social Security number. That I feel like that is a reaction that Apple had because she was able to do it, until she did an update. At some point, Apple said, we're not going to allow you to do this anymore. And I don't believe that it was just an arbitrary thing that Apple did. I feel like it was some kind of federal regulation that some attorney, like Apple's legal department, was like, hey, this could be a violation of blah, 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 blah. So you should make sure that everybody that is on this, that is using this, has a Social Security number. Mm-hmm. So I don't see, it would still be possible to limit if the Postal Service was like a branch of, like if it was federally funded, the feds could just change the rules there and say, you got to have a Social Security number.
Yeah, but it's easier to do it through the private entities, because again, as an anarchist, I know what you're talking about. But on the other hand, I'm actually being a little bit realistic about this. Mm-hmm. If you do a committee and you get banking people involved and it's a banking interest, it's another layer of complexity. Whereas if you're talking about the post office, theoretically, you can call your congressman and you can ask for something to be done. What I am simply saying is that there should be a special act imposed that creates space for poor people and the indigent to have an actual bank account.
Right.
That supersedes and changes those regulations. If we had to have a special law that compelled first of all, it would be really hard to pass any of this, but if you had and I'm not saying that's what we should focus on, but what I'm saying is this would be an improvement. But if you had to pass something to regulate or to tell the banks, you have to have bank accounts now for the indigent, and they don't have an address, and they may not have a Social Security number. Just by me saying that, there would be so much you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like so much flack thrown at me about how, oh no, we're going to have bank accounts with people who are, engaged in horrible practices and what is it? How would you phrase that? we're going to have
Unethical.
unethical, illegal, fly by night, which is what you have anyway with
Yeah.
corporations and stuff.
Yeah.
But there are other metrics that you could use.
Mhm.
You could use other metrics other than social security numbers,
Mhm.
right? I mean, people could be fingerprinted. I'm not a big fan of this, but you are other ways. Okay, you got a name. You just have to prove that you exist. So
Mhm.
we'll take birth certificates from Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay. You could have most of the people who are a lot of people who are homeless served in the military.
Yeah.
You could have numbers about how they were in the military.
Yeah.
You could assign social workers to help them. There are things that you could do to have other ways of verifying an account. And we're just talking about having one account
Yeah.
here. So the negativity around this, I mean, I'm aware of it. People are going to say all these accounts are going to be used for nefarious purposes, but they would be maxed out. It's not like I'm saying, yeah, you should be allowed to have an account with $100,000 in it.
Yeah.
I'm saying you should be allowed to have small accounts with the Postal Service. There are ways that you could structure this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm a little bit, I don't get to the point, or I'm a little wordy, but there are ways that you could, built into the system, there are ways that you could get around these problems.
Yeah.
You could cap them at 25 grand
Yeah.
or 10 grand.
Yeah.
People show up and they said, we have a special case here, but we have a birth certificate. I don't know if you have a birth certificate now and you don't have a social security number, you're SOL, right?
Yeah.
So this is the stuff that I'm thinking. And because I'm thinking out of the box, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It creates waves of negativity, and it creates waves of, oh no, because we have to have all these rules because there are people out there who are doing bad things. I'm like, yeah, we got people doing bad things all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are the thoughts. I'm gonna shut this off and maybe edit the video. No one has joined us, but if you are seeing this afterward, please comment and subscribe or like, and join me on Twitter, Roger on the Left, and Looney Leftist, and who will change her name soon. She's not. Maybe we should call her the Lefty Procrastinator. All right. Join you guys later. Bye-bye.